All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Is this thing live? Are we on yet?
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. How's it going over there on you guys' side of town?
It is good. How are things going with you?
Oh man, it's peachy, man. It's just peachy. It's been
Okay.
it's been quite the week, the weekend, all that good stuff, man. But definitely glad to be back for another series with you guys on Let's Talk I Do Business. So today is kind of interesting, and to kind of give you a little bit of background as to why we think this is interesting is really the name of the subtopic for today, and that is around scalable / growth businesses versus lifestyle entrepreneurship businesses as a couple. Now, kind of where this overall kind of concept came from. Earlier in the week, I was in DC with some clients, and one of the guys that was training began to talk about the concept of understanding the differences between a scalable company and a lifestyle company. And so, in essence, to kind of summarize, I'm going to give you what he was suggesting, and then I'm going to kind of look at what we're talking about as the couples, and I want to get some feedback from you guys as well. So on the scalable side, scalable / growth side of the house, essentially you are building a business to eventually sell it, right? So the concept there is you're scaling, you're investing in more staff, you're bringing on people that can eventually replace you, so to speak. On the lifestyle side of the house, this is essentially businesses that are set up to kind of maintain your lifestyle as a couple. Let's say, for example, if you know that if you need to be making, let's say, $10,000 a month to maintain a good, healthy lifestyle, then you essentially do just enough for that, and you're happy there, and you run that for as long as you want to, and then eventually you decide to sell the company. Now, or you may decide to dismantle it eventually, depending on how you decide to do it. So I guess the question that I have right off the bat to you both, Keith and Katrina, have the two of you given any thought to this kind of a concept? Is this something new? And if it is new, that's okay, because it was relatively new for us as well to kind of make that kind of a delineation between the two. So I'm interested to hear from the both of you.
I don't think we've really thought about it. We've had some conversation about we would love to be able to hire on eventually, hire on students coming out of college or people who just need experience and they can't get those jobs that say, okay, I need this much experience, but they don't have any. Because that's been my issue is, I have experience here and there freelancing in a lot of different realms with writing, but not enough experience in one area. So I felt like part of our goal as a company, I would like it to be that we help those who are either making a career change or those coming out of college who really want some experience, and we can give them some of our content to write up and let them work with us. So thinking of that would mean our business would have to be outside of just the comfort zone of, oh, we make enough to do this and make enough to do that. Keith wanted to bring on family eventually. So I don't know. We haven't had the direct conversation of how big do we want this to get? Because I think we're in such foundational stages. All we can think about is okay, are we going to be able to do this to sustain both of us without another job at some point?
Absolutely.
And we're trying to get there first.
Yeah. With writing, because we are a content writing company, writing is about finding the initial opportunity to write and get paid for it. And it's like anything, because everybody has the ability to write, they think in a way that makes them a writer. So for us to go out and try to give somebody else an opportunity to get paid to write, so they can say, hey, here's my paycheck. Like mine was $35 the first time I ever got paid to write. I didn't even want to cash it. You were so excited about it. They were like, crap, I'm a writer. I need that money. But Katrina was just saying, I am blessed. I have just a family of just gifted writers. And I have this vision of us overseeing and providing opportunities where we're the owners, not necessarily the operators who are constantly writing and having to do the hours upon hours upon hours of work, where we can subcontract, okay, this person is this type of storyteller, this person is this type of storyteller, so we can align them, because that's, I think, where our skill set can come to fruition, and just give people the opportunity that they wouldn't have been able to have with, I don't want to say without us, but just we've been in their shoes. Katrina's going through it now. I went through it a couple of years ago.
So I guess our answer is yes. we want a scalable company. It would be great because, yeah, he does have a lot of gifted writers in his family. So eventually, if we had a bigger business, we have one that works, one family member that works at CNN. She's a political writer. She could do all the political writing. It would be awesome. And there's companies that do that, that we know of, that we are actually sometimes are contracted out to work for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be, I mean, it would be amazing. It's just for me, sometimes I'm the more practical of, okay, let's get through here, and then we can think about that. And he's kind of like the big idea, like we joke, he doesn't like this. He's more Pollyanna than I am, and I'm more Eeyore. So we try to like mesh that so we keep each other grounded, but at the same time we have bigger goals and visions.
Absolutely. And I'll say for Kaya and I definitely want to obviously hear what your thoughts are, Kaya, but I remember when we first started out, there really wasn't a decision of as far as scalable versus, lifestyle. It was really more so what's going to keep the lights on, right, what's going to keep food on the table. I think that's the interesting element that happens on the relationship side of the house. And, I guess kind of fast forwarding to now, it is about scale, right? And it is about scaling the business to eventually be able to, work yourself out of a job, essentially, to where it's time to look at selling or potentially acquiring more companies, so that way you're able to, expand your footprint, so to speak. So, Kaya, what's your thinking there?
I think in the very beginning, we were solely trying to make sure our ends, we met our ends, right? And that everything that we wanted in our amenities and stuff like that throughout life. Yeah. I think that was really our ultimate goal. Let's build this thing so that we can be comfortable and we don't have to worry about a lot. And then after a while, it became, okay, we are heads down working pretty much 100% of the time. And now we want to be able to have some free time.
Yeah.
So now we need to start building this thing to scale to where we can bring on staff and where we can have people that, are also working alongside of us. It allows us to be able to do more, but it also allows us some time to like step away from the business every now and then and just have a breather and then come back with fresh ideas. We joke about how if we do take a vacation, we still talk business on vacation, but it's a reset, right? So we might be talking about business while we're sitting on the beach and getting some salt water and some salt air and all that good stuff. But then when we come back, it's like, okay, we can hit it hard now because we had a chance to breathe. So
yeah. So there was an interesting video we did. I want to say it may have been last year sometime, a couple years ago, but it was about couples in business. And I thought it might be a good idea to just play that. It's about 3 minutes long, so kind of bear with us. Turn your volume up, on this. You can kind of hear, exactly what this is. But this is just an interesting concept on, how we were looking at ideas as couples, as you're setting goals and you're trying to establish what it is that you're looking to do, for your business. Just take a quick listen. It's about 3 minutes long. We'd love to hear everyone's feedback. And again, feel free to start. I see some comments starting to roll in, and we'll get those played up here in just a second. All right, so let's take a listen really quick. 1 second. When you as an entrepreneur are setting out to venture out into new ideas, it is important to include your partner. One of the things that we sometimes run into is that our partner may be involved in other types of businesses already, or perhaps there's kids involved. So now it makes it a little bit more difficult for you to actually set out on a journey of a new venture or a new uncharted territory.
We'll walk you through how to qualify it, how to quantify it, and then share it with your partner.
So what's important in the first step as you prepare to go into your next journey or venture is to write it down. You're taking out a sheet of paper and simply writing down your vision, very clearly and succinctly. For example, perhaps you want to become an entrepreneur in the area of management consulting.
So the next step is to quantify your goal by adding a timetable to when you want to get it completed. So whether it be the end of this year, the end of the first quarter, add a time statement to what you're trying to get accomplished.
Now that we've talked about preparing for and also quantifying, now let's move into qualifying, right? So think of it almost as you've defined what it is that you want to do. You define how long it's going to take you to do it. And now you're going to talk about what you need or how you're going to go about actually getting it done. So for example, if we're still using the same perspective of starting in the management consulting arena, then perhaps the next part is going to be how you intend to do that. So are there certain qualifications that you're going to need? Are there certain mentors you're going to need to go seek out, etc., to help obtain that actual goal?
So the next thing you want to do is include your partner in your statement. This is the part where you say, I would like for my partner to get on board. But you want to write that out so that whenever you're explaining it to your partner, they clearly know what your goal is. They clearly know what you're going to need in order to get there, what timetable you have.
I think what was helpful for us was also explaining exactly how your partner fits into the goal, right? Mm-hmm. So you've taken the time to write it down. You've quantified how long it's going to take you. You've qualified what you need to succeed within that goal. And then now you're showing that partner specifically where you need him or her to be at within that process, if you will, to help you to achieve your goal. We run into a lot of folks that we mentor or we are mentees of that have families, they've got children, so they've got volleyball practice, basketball practice, football practice that they're taking their children to. And so that sometimes can impede upon reaching the actual goal, but it's still possible.
So now it's time to bring it full circle. You've prepared, you've qualified, you've quantified, you've included your partner in your statement.
So I think in summary, it's really about sending a structured goal to the universe, right? You think about a dream or like a high pie in the sky kind of idea or like a dream, if you will. It's a little different from actually writing down the goal, setting all the different metrics that Kai just outlined. So again, send out a clear, concise, and manageable message to the universe.
That was great. I wish I would have had paper to take notes.
Hopefully it made a little bit of sense, man. But thoughts. I mean, anything. You guys can jump in as well. Feel free. We're all ears as well.
I see it. Okay, so in education we call it backwards design. I don't know if you've heard of backwards design. It's the way that we plan units and plan like big projects for our year. And that's exactly what we do. And it's so funny when you're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I do every unit. And I didn't think about applying it to our business. And it makes so much sense. Like just because he can have his big idea and then we can route together the road we're going to take there and our guidelines along the way and certain project targets along the way and our deadlines to meet them. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad that we have you guys to do this with because
trust me, man,
it's amazing.
Well, he's going to talk to me like I'm one of her students, and I love that so much. So thank you for that.
You should have saw like, and the good part about it, it is a lot of this is trial and error, man. It's just from actually being in the trenches, making a lot of mistakes, all that kind of good stuff, and now we're kind of at a point to where we're starting to get better and a little bit more consistent at things. We still don't have it all figured out yet by any stretch of the imagination, but we at least try, man. And I think, one of the things that's most important out of that video and that I think still ties in to our part of our scalable versus lifestyle entrepreneurs and as a couple is really to make the determination and then quantify it, right? Because we always say a lot of big words and fancy things whenever we're together, like I want to be a millionaire. Or I want to have my business, or I want, but then we're not saying things like by when, I want to have, this many, like this will be my threshold, by the time I think we can start off with lifestyle to make sure we can pay our bills, then moving into scalable and growth, what does that look like? What's our timetable and how do we measure success? And I think sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge, man, as a couple in business, at least for us, that was truly a challenge. We never looked up. We were just working, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, we gotta figure something out, because you gotta start, because it starts to switch from how do I hide money, if you will, for tax purposes, then it starts becoming more like I need to spend more of it, because if you don't, it's going to get ate up anyway by taxes. So then you start, maybe we'll have a conversation around that down the line.
Yep, that's a good conversation.
Yeah, it's probably business and how to make sure that you're financially sound. Right. But we did have one question that did come in from Amy. And I guess quick story, well, you want to tell the quick story about Amy? Amy is one of your really close friends.
So me and Amy have 20 plus years on our belt. I'm not going to tell my age or hers. She'll probably kill me. But she's been there a lot to see us through all the different ups and downs of this entrepreneurial path that we've been on. So she's seen the ebbs and flows, she's seen the highs, she's seen the lows, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's really good to always have somebody that kind of understands what you're going through when you're on your entrepreneurial journey as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just kind of reading what Amy was saying here. So go/vision writing, write your vision. So essentially with the writing aspect of the vision, and I've learned this, and I think we've read a lot of similar books before, but there is a distinguishing difference when you're writing something down physically, like pen and pad, like not typing, not in your head, not on your cell phone, but physically writing something down. You know, that actually does something. And again, we're huge universe believers, so we're the type people who are like, thoughts become things, you know, we're huge visionary type people. Yeah. So, you know, when you write it down, that makes a massive difference right off the bat. So now you've told the universe that this is what you want to do. But then when you start to quantify it, to Amy's point here, adding the timetable to it, think about that conversation for you and your significant other at that point. So now you're not saying, I want to go into entrepreneurship. It's like, I want to go into entrepreneurship by this time. You know, and now there's at least a mental calendar that starts to come into play. And then how are you going to execute? That piece, I think, is very important. Again, still writing it down, not typing, not on your cell phone, but actually writing it down physically on a pad, sheet of paper. And you're writing down essentially how you're going to execute the goals, right? And you're saying it, how do you need your partner to be engaged with you through that process to ensure that those goals get met? And so now that's that part. Remember last week we were talking about things about making sure that you're both in the same vehicle, you're both traveling on the same road. These are some of the first steps that you can take as a couple to begin to really identify that and to make some real meaningful decisions about what's going to make the most amount of sense for you and your significant other.
And you'll be amazed at how many little intricate things you pull out when you're actually writing things down, how many little parts that if you just had it in your head, big picture wouldn't think of, but as you're writing it down, you're like, oh, I got to think about this. And, it's probably going to take me 3 months to get this executed. Yeah, and absolutely. Okay, so my timeline looks a little bit like 6 months time frame versus, you know, in your head, you might be thinking, oh, I can get that done next month. And then once you start writing things down, you're like,
changes up a little bit.
Timeline's a little different. Yeah. So, yeah.
What was funny? Well, it's funny because from our world, I always try to make correlations between what I'm being taught and what applies in my real life. So there's a thing about writing where everything up here is brilliant. Everything is the greatest idea ever. Everything is just, I'm going to win this award. I'm going to get this. And then you put it on paper and that's when shit gets real and it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, because it got real. All of a sudden, whatever was up here is now you see it, you're looking at it and it's like, wow, it's now something. Then when it comes to being activated by a timeline, I am so deadline activated, if that makes sense. If you give me a deadline, I now know, okay, I only have X amount of days. Then part 3 of what you guys just alluded to, how much do I have to do per day to obtain that, to hit my deadline? Do I got to write 5 pages a day? If I miss a day, now it's up to 7. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. And with Katrina, she's my biggest fan. And I am hers, and you need that. Because, and we talked about this last week, but I looked at Katrina after we went off the air and I'm like, I feel bad I didn't say this. If it wasn't for her looking at me and saying, I believe in you. I believe in what you're trying to do. And I believe in you and I'm with you all the way. Then you're like, okay, we're good. Now we got to do this. Now it's just a matter of action.
But that did come with a timeline.
Yeah, it did.
We got married in April. when we got married, of course, there wasn't a pandemic.
Yeah.
And before we got married, we sat down and had a discussion, and it was, okay, I support you. However, we need to have a deadline for you to make this amount of money per month by a year from now.
Yeah.
And he exceeded that, but I said to him, we have to be able to do that because we have to see a future that we can build together. If this goes on for 3 years and you're making the same you did at the beginning, then we're going to be 3 years down the road. There's going to be a problem. I knew he had just started. I knew he was only a year in. And so that was very delicate. It was hard to voice that and not, because I wanted him to know how much I supported him. But at the same time, I knew that with all of the trappings of our life, with kids, we take care of my mom. She lives with us. I have a full-time job. All of those trappings, I knew where my I guess limits were, where I would not be able to sustain anymore emotionally, and physically working and doing all those things. And I think being honest and having that conversation of where both of us were at, it just really helped us to have that goal and that timeline. But since then, we haven't talked about a timeline or a goal. So I guess we have some work to do.
Well, it's not a fun conversation, guys. I mean, it really isn't. It sucks. It's like sitting there going, oh, Jesus, here's just the weight of the world. And it's the weight of time. That's on you, and you're like, oh my God, I got to do this by this point and this point. But then you're like, all right, just do it. Just figure it out, create a plan, do it. And if you do it, I mean, okay, then you set the next one, and then you set the next one. So, well,
that's one of my questions to you guys is, because right now we are that 100% working, like we work 7 days a week, and have all the other things, like you said, that, we have to take care of outside of work. How did you figure out when was the right time to start transitioning your goal from just being comfortable and trying to work until you got to that level and scale and going to the scalable level of, oh, wow, now we're ready to scale back on our work and to start hiring people on?
Yeah. I wish, again, from last week, I wish I had one of those like silver bullet, it was like the stars aligned. But unfortunately, in this case, it really was something that kind of landed on us. Like when we first started out, we really didn't have a plan around, when we were going to be able to transition into a scalable growth kind of company. Initially, it really was, we don't want to work for anyone. We grew up in a family that were full with entrepreneurs. So we kind of saw it a lot. But then after that, it really kind of starts to become a little bit more of, so now what, right? It's like, okay, so you've gotten a few years under your belt now to where you're making some decent money. You're able to pay your bills, right? But it still might feel a little bit like work, right? It's like, I gotta, when you wake up in the morning, it's like, I gotta go to work. It still feels the same, right? And then eventually what starts to happen is you realize that the work outweighs your time, right? The amount of work that you're being asked to do from your clients, it's going to almost force you to have to hire somebody, and I'm not saying that that's the silver bullet answer, but that's the reality of what happened in our world. Initially, I was the guy that was writing, let's say the business plans or the proposals. Kai was the person that was doing the design stuff and the ideas and the strategy stuff. But all of a sudden, it's like when you have 3 or 4 of those coming at you at the same time, you have to be able to duplicate yourself. And I think what's also most important there as a couple is going to be, again, how we talked about last week, is how do we determine our lanes? And when does the lane that you belong in? So Katrina, for example, if your lane ends up being strategy, sales, closing the deals, if that's your lane, when do you know you've reached your capacity to when either one or two things has to happen? Either Keith has to then move into your lane to assist you, or you begin to get an assistant to help support what you're doing. And I think that as a couple, I think is almost critical to the success of your marriage, because as you start to get busier and busier and busier, you're going to see crossing in each other's lanes is almost like going into like a den of sharks, and you've got a big cut on your wrist, right, with all this blood. And because now it's like, you're in my lane. This is my job, so I'm supposed to be doing this.
Are you relating me to a shark?
I'm just saying something about a shark. something like a shark. I mean, there are times when I'll get my hand bit off, just in trying to help. You know what I mean? And so that's an honest, transparent answer, man. In this case, we really did not get into a situation to where we knew exactly when, but it just started to feel like it was happening. And then in full transparency, the light switch came on this week. It was like, well, we've been scaling the business for quite some time now, but we really didn't understand that it really was a transition from, okay, we have enough money to go travel when we want to and do these things. Then it started moving into, but we might want to hold on to that money and invest in another project manager, or invest in a publicist, or invest in a blogger.
That can give us more time.
To give us more time.
Right.
What was that book? Oh gosh, it's going to slip my memory. So there's a book that we read. We'll try to get the name of it for you all. But there was a book we read probably back in 2011, and it talks about how the more successful you get, what's important is learning how to spend your money to bring back more time to yourself. Because time is obviously the only thing that you can't get back. We've heard that thing, it's almost cliche, but the more and more you're in business, the more realistic that becomes, is that your time, when you're in these meetings or you're having these conversations, if you can duplicate yourself, or at least get someone that can serve as a proxy for you, that's going to get you your time back, which then means you spend more time at home with your significant other, which is still a very important factor in our entrepreneurial worlds. The folks that are tuned in, the people that, and Keith, Katrina, both of you as well, is how do we figure out ways to not have a stranger, in your bedroom,
But here's the part that doesn't get talked about a lot is as you're starting to scale, you have to be comfortable with letting go of things and allowing somebody else to do it.
Right.
I'm going to be honest and say it was a tough thing for me. Like, there are times when Oscar's like, Kaya, we need to get you an assistant. And I'm like, no, I got it. Like, I'm so used to handling, like, I can handle my schedule and I can handle these things. And if I juggle this and put this over here, where I still want to hold on to things because I have a certain way that I want it to be done and a certain level that I want it to be done too. So there's also that growing pain as your business starts to grow that a lot of people don't talk about, and they're not honest about it. So I'm just going to put it out there. You have to know when to let go of certain tasks. Yeah.
We have that.
Let me just. So, Keith told me that we're going to be doing some work for you guys. And can I just be candid in this conversation? So we're talking on the phone, and he does this rundown of his day. I call him at the end of my day, it's not really the end of my day, but driving from work, my full-time job teaching, to here, and it's about 40-minute drive. So I call him every day and I'm like, hey, I'm coming home. And I'm just thinking, we're going to have a light conversation. It's going to be great. I've had a long day. It is like, okay, I did this, and this, and we're going to do this, and this. So Friday, he's talking to me on the phone. And he's like, we're going to do some new work, and you're going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I'm like, you're just introducing this to me. And I had to stop. I think got a little upset, because this is where he's been. He's been with you guys for a long time, and he knows you well, and he knows how to work with you well. And so I said to him, I understand that this is how you do it, but just remember, my style is different than yours, and I need you to stop telling me how you think it should be done, because I'm not going to be creative. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just say, okay, you said I have to do it this way, and you're the expert at, Oscar and Kaya, so I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so stop telling me. And it was very hard for him to hear that, but I needed to be in my lane. And I needed to process and think, how am I going to do this in a certain way? Then we can come back together and we can talk about it. But it's kind of the same thing of like, he started SBI. This is his baby, and he's adding me onto it. And it's very hard for him to let go of certain things, but he just can't manage the work by himself anymore. It's just too much.
Yeah. It's like letting somebody borrow your car for the first time. And you're seriously like, okay, it sticks a little from first to second, for those who don't know what a stick shift is, by the way. But it does this, and they're like, can I just feel it out for myself? Here, I'm like, well, it's my car. Can I tell you about my car?
My relationship with his car is going to be different than his relationship with his car.
So, but but a few months ago, I was swamped, and I got an offer and this is how Katrina became part of the company. I got an offer to sign on a new client who had a massive writing project. And I'm like, shit, I can't do it. It's too much. I don't have the time. I just don't. And I'm like, well, honey, you want to become a writer? Here we go. Here's the deep end of the pool.
Already a writer?
But okay, you were going to be.
I want to get paid more to be a writer.
Anyway, no, and she's really a writer. But no, and you try to explain to me, you're like, okay, this is my methodology. Mm-hmm. This is how I do it. And then you got to realize, you're like, well, she's not me. Her writing voice is nothing like mine, which is good because mine is way too sarcastic. And that's great. But anyway, no, that's the whole point, is letting go.
Well, it is now with each other, because then when we do bring more people on, we're kind of like, at least we've learned with each other, so we know some of the pitfalls and some of the things that we have to let go of.
Yeah, it's like giving your child to the babysitter for the first time.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm trusting you with my child's life. You heard it, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. But I use a car and a child in the same metaphor. But anyway.
Now I'm hearing you, and I'm excited for the two of you to hear that for this next project that both you all will be engaged and working with us on that. It just is one of those kind of things where I can totally relate. I think we run into those same kind of challenges when we get when we got our first larger projects or larger contracts. It's like, what do we do? How do we do it? And then we start saying, now, whenever we get new contracts now, it's a different thing. Now we're looking at a staffing model. We're like, okay, do we have the requisite staff on our team now to do it? Or do we need to look at hiring and bringing in other people, right? And so that's what begins to really help you as a couple, right? Especially when, and you're like, for example, with Keith and Katrina, with your case with Katrina, you're still working, and you're looking at, transitioning out to get into the business full time. And Keith is running full steam ahead right now. The main thing is, to your point, Katrina, and this is the tough part, Keith, I had to do this as well, which is I have to remember, as I'm running like that marathon, I still have to make sure that I'm running slow enough so she can still get the baton when she gets off work, because her mind is likely still transitioning from, I just worked a full day. Now I have to come and put my SBI hat on, and it's a thing, man. And I had to learn that, and working with Kaya on stuff, because I may have had meetings all throughout the day, and then I walk in and I'm just like, well, why haven't you done this yet? And I'm just, splurting things out. And she's like, slow down, cowboy. There has been some things that have been done, and this is what they are. So that would be my only like small nugget. And again, you guys are going to have your own journey, but that's just the only one thing that I would say I had to learn, and I'm still learning, is to make sure that I slow down enough, or really even, it may not even really be slowing down. It may just be getting on the right levels. Right. So that way you're running at the same pace. And that way she learns, well, okay, in my lane, this is what this means for me. Right. And then in Oscar's lane, this is what Oscar needs to do. And so now those two lanes, again, don't get blurred. Because every time, think of it as a big pool of sharks. You drop one thing of blood in there and it's going to be a frenzy. And that's what happens every time you try to like cross lanes like that. At least from my experience, that's what I've seen, before.
I have a question for you. So, I mean, hopefully at some point we'll be able to hire someone on to do some subcontracting. And how do you handle if somebody doesn't do the work as well as you would like? How do you handle that conversation with that person? Because eventually that's going to be an issue. I'm just thinking ahead. And I don't like that kind of confrontation. So how do you guys have that conversation with someone that you're, contracting to do work for your business?
And that's a question. That's a very, and so to give you the so I got things popping up on my screen here. I should have turned off the email stuff. Sorry about that. Can you hear that, by the way? Did you hear that chime?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I gotta find a way to. But anyway, so in our world, you're not going to find someone that you think is going to be able to do it as good as you. That's probably never going to happen, right? And so the sooner you get in your head that no one is going to be able to do it like you, that's going to help to eliminate some of the fear of hiring in people, right? I know for sure that there have been instances where I brought someone in and I've set them up for failure, because I'm trying to bring them right in based off of what's on their resume, based off of what they've told me they can do. And then you drop them into this program or project or into this contract and they drown. And they drown within a matter of days. And that's also the same factor of the whole, as far as the actual baton. If you hire somebody in, you've got to first delineate clearly what you want them to do. And if you can't say it's simple, you don't know it well enough. You don't know the scope well enough. You shouldn't hire somebody yet, right? Okay. For example, I can walk down, the folks that we have on staff, and I can tell you specifically what we have them doing. And the reason why is because if I cross the lines too much, then I get confused. I'm asking people to do things that's outside of their wheelhouse, and eventually they're going to quit anyway, right? So finding that clear line. So the first step is realizing that you're not going to find someone that's going to be as passionate or as good as you, right? But then what you have to start doing is to figure out what lane do you need for them to play, bring it down into specificity to where it is, I can say this succinctly. I need this person to write blogs. I need this person to perform QA after I've written a blog. I need this person to check emails or whatever those things are. And so that when you put your job description out, when you talk to that person during the interview, you're talking about things that are very attainable, right? Like the person can understand, they can see the actual role. One of the things that is most important in a face-to-face interview is when you get the person to put their pen down, right? So if they're taking notes and they're listening and they're just, yes, sir, and they're doing all that stuff, and all of a sudden they put that pen down, they're listening to you, it's because now they can envision what you're saying to them. They can see it. And then that's the person you hire, the person that begins to say, I think I understand what you're asking for. Here's how I would approach that, right? Okay. Because to ask someone a question like, how do you do writing or how do you blog? That's a gigantic question. But if there's certain subject areas that you want them to focus on, what's your approach to, crisis management writing? What's your approach to very specific in the weeds? And now let's hear them talk about that subject. And when they put that pen down, they're sitting back and they're just belching out stuff and they're talking to you. That's the person, if that fits in that lane, that you want to hire, because now they're passionate about it, right? Because if you just get them and hire them, yeah, they'll take a check. They'll gladly take a check, but they'll never be really passionate about the things that you're asking them to do. And then eventually they're going to quit anyway. And so I know that was probably a long-winded answer, but that's an honest, approach to that.
So let me mirror that back to you. I get what you're saying is it really starts with scope of the project, being able to just lay out, bam, 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 this is what I need. And the interview process, hiring the right person. That's going to keep you from down the road just having to fire the person that you hired, that you didn't have the good interview techniques. You didn't realize from get-go that they wouldn't be the right person for the job. And that will just definitely make your life easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, and give some thought to, when you hire someone, asking them also what their background is working with small business, right? Like startups. A lot of times you'll get someone that has a beautiful resume, beautiful experience, but it might all be for your large corporations. And it is a culture shock.
It's a different culture.
Yeah. For someone to leave from, I'm just throwing out a name at this point. This doesn't have any recommendation about any one company, but your IBMs of the world, your Bank of America's of the world, like the big companies where that maybe they've done writing and maybe they've done marketing. But normally they've done only a small component of it. Whereas in small business, the expectation is you're going to need them to do the whole kit and caboodle. That's, if you're the writer, you have to come up with the storyline. You're going to ask the questions. You're going to do the writing. You're going to do your QA, all those things. So when you start looking for people to replace aspects of what you do, make sure that there's someone that has experience in small business. And then some micro startup small businesses, just to ensure that they can really do all of it, all aspects of the actual work. perspective to think about.
You took the words out of my mouth. So I'm going to talk about culture. Culture has a lot to do with having the right staff. And you have to be honest with that person about what kind of culture they're actually coming into. It makes a world of a difference. And that's exactly where I was going to go with that, as far as like, if they're coming from a large corporation, are they going to understand the nuances that you have as a small business, you know, and the different hurdles, are the resource limitations as well, right? When you're at a large company, you've got
at your fingertips.
Everything at your fingertips. You can find it. There's a repository and all this other good stuff. When you come to a smaller company, it might be on one person's laptop, or it might be in that person's Dropbox, or, you know, those type of things. So making sure that the culture is a good fit as well is huge.
Absolutely. So Keith, I see it looks like your brain is churning there, man. What you over there thinking about, Keith? He's got like this look on his face right now. He's like, what's on your mind, man?
Oh, no. I'm trying to sit back and listen more intently than ever before, because we are at such an early stage where taking on more work is constantly on your mind. It's kind of like the beautiful thing about coming from a corporate America to becoming an entrepreneur is, instead of waking up and despising what you did for a living, you now have changed or traded that stress with, oh my God, where's the next client going to come from, and things of that nature. And that is, at least I don't have to worry about seeing this person today who I despise, who is the CEO or the CFO or COO. Instead, I'm sitting here going, okay, my work today is to do this, and I better do it good, or if not, I'm going to lose the client. And, you know, and that is always, I don't know about for you, but like Katrina and you alluded to earlier, the ability to take time off and get that reset, but you're still thinking and talking about work. But at the same time, Katrina and I were having this conversation not too long ago, and I looked at her and I go, in 2 years, I can't tell you where I had more than 2 days off in a row. I just couldn't tell you where I had nothing to do for more than 2 days. Even we've gone to St. Simon's Island, I think 3 times, and every single time it was, okay, I got to wake up at 7 so I can get 5 hours in so we can have the afternoon off. And that's vacation, folks. You know, and so for us to be able to find somebody to say, all right, if I walk away for 4 days, can you babysit my child? And not only can you babysit it, but can you do good work with my child? Can you teach my child a little something new, or at least maintain what we've already established? And that is difficult. That's really difficult. And it's a muscle that I can only speak for myself, that is very weak, that is being trained on, because I'm not focusing on that. But I need to start focusing on that to help take my stress away from all the work that is just piling up over here. And as work piles up, you worry about it dwindling very quickly. So
we had the conversation too, with work coming in, and him saying to me, and this was also Friday, I just want to make sure that I'm not giving you more than you can handle. And I have a fantastic therapist, I'm going to be honest. You know, I have a lot going on in my life, and I think everybody deserves therapy and needs it. Right. So my psychologist has said to me, like, about boundaries, like, you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and you know how to set boundaries. It's nobody else's job to tell you, I need to protect you from this, because you are able to protect yourself. And that's been very important to me. So with that, I told Keith, I'm like, it is not your job to protect me and tell me, oh, I'm not going to tell you about this, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to take it on myself because I'm worried about you. It's like, it's my job to set that boundary and say, hey, here's a list of things we have to do. I can take this, this, and this. And that's about all the time I have right now. And I think that's been difficult, because he carries this burden and this weight of thinking, she's tired, she's taxed, I don't need to tell her anything about this, I don't need to give her any more work. But he forgets also that this is the work I really enjoy, and it feeds my soul. So, you know, let me set the boundaries and let me learn to make sure that I am communicating with him. And in a marriage, it's very important.
And there's a second element to that too, by the way, and it's the quality of work. Because if she's taxed and she's stressed, and she is just completely overwhelmed, the work is going to suffer. It really is going to suffer.
And he really worries about it.
What about on your end, Keith, where if you're overworked and taxed and tired as well, it's going to suffer as well, right?
And yeah, oh God, yeah. I mean, there are times where I'll find myself being like, I got to punch out for a couple hours. I don't care if it's just mowing the lawn. Yeah. I got to get my head away from this space because what I'm writing right now sucks. And it's not my inner critic. It sucks. And you have those moments, and you if you want to use the phrase "come to Jesus," yeah, I think as entrepreneurs you have that come to Jesus moment with yourself almost daily. I mean, especially early on, where you're like, okay, where are we, and what are we doing, and is this healthy, and is this sustainable? So yeah, it is. It's this own atmosphere of just different types of stress that constantly circle, and a lot of it, and it all orbits around one thing, and it's time.
The MIT comes in
again. Yeah, the MIT. Did we talk about that last week?
We touched
Yes, you did.
The most important task for the week. But there's also an interesting perspective that both of you have said, and I'm going to try this. And again, I shouldn't be trying to do unorthodox stuff on all this software. But there's a 4-blocker heat map that I'd like to share as a tool. And what this does, I heard a couple things here. One of them is on the side of making sure that you're doing some passion work as well, meaning, things that I actually care about being able to do, things that actually I feel passionate about working on. And what I'd like to be able to share, and again, if this doesn't work on this screen, then just don't hold me accountable, because this is my first time trying to do this. But I'm gonna give you like a chart that may work. I'm going to share my screen here now, and let me know if you can see this in just a second. And I know we're live, but if it doesn't work, who cares? We'll just try it anyway, right? We should be all right. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see what happens.
Going rogue.
I know, yeah. So if I get like the crazy feedback, we might have to. This will be fun. Who cares?
No, let's try.
We'll discuss this off screen later on.
Okay. So can you all see my PowerPoint screen on here?
Yeah.
Screen, yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. And you guys can still hear me? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Perfecto. All right. So let's try this. If I insert a table here, just a 4-part table. And let's just move this up here. Let's bring this down here. All right, so now you got a 4-blocker. And within this, let's think about, gosh, it's gonna get really nerdy really quickly, but let's just think about, down here is going to be passion. This is your passion. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's see, let's make this fun. All right, so down here, let's say this is action. All right, let's make this a little bit more descriptive here. Passion's going this way, and then we'll say copy P. And this other side is going to be level of effort. Okay. Let's also put this as level of passion. All right, so now if I take and I move this, let's turn this way. And let's move this over here. So can you kind of get what I'm doing here? Where one side is essentially, you're going to have a level of effort that goes up this way. You're going to have a level of passion that goes up this way. So when you think about this top quad here, now you guys aren't sleeping yet, are you guys still awake over there? We're just
watching.
I'm getting a PowerPoint tutorial right now. It's great.
Perfect. So over here is considered things that have high effort, low passion. I'll explain why in just a moment.
Okay.
Over here, low effort, low passion. Okay. Over here comes high effort, high passion, right? Over here becomes low effort, high passion, right? All right, so the reason why this becomes important is because you all can almost take a sheet like this and begin to understand what things are most important for you, for which types of tasks you ought to take, right? So let's say, for example, you get a task in that's going to have, it's high effort, but it's low passion. These are things that you may want to consider canning or not really pursuing, because it's going to take a lot of effort to do it, but I really don't give a damn about it, right? And that's where that low passion comes in at. So if we were to add a shape here, let me kind of give you an additional nugget that will work exceptionally well for what you all are trying to do. Then let's change that color. So let's say these represent like where you're coming in at. So this opportunity is opportunity 1, right? And you say, well, I don't know, this one is something that kind of lands over here. So it's going to be, very low passion, right? But it's going to have a lot of effort. This is going to take a lot of time. So should I really pursue this, right? So that's where you want to start asking yourself questions like that. Maybe another one that comes, another opportunity comes in, and you all decide to say, this one is over here, right? So this one has high effort and high passion. So this might end up becoming a project. So this is something that's a little bit bigger, right? It starts to become bigger on your revenue bucket as well as on your passion meter. It's something that is, I really want to do this. Yeah, it's going to take some time. I may have to look at hiring staff or something like this. This is a big kahuna. This is the whale over here. When we start looking at other types of opportunities to do this, I don't know why my computer wants to do that all of a sudden. All right, let's say this one lands over here. This one is low effort and low passion. So this is something that might be a quick hit. It's relatively, it's not as big as like a whale. It's not as small as something that's high effort, low passion, but it's something I could probably get done, pay the bills, get a few things done with that. Over here is where you kind of want to, these becomes more of the sweet spots. Things that won't take you that long, but I'm really, really passionate about. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
And so over here, this won't take me a lot of time. I can do this. So this is something that Katrina may be able to really hone in on, because it means she still has a full-time job. So she's not going to be totally tired. She's not going to be burned out, but her passion will drive her to actually complete the work. And so the passion work over here is where you want to keep Katrina or someone anyone who's listening to the video or to the live. You may want to stay over here if you're more of like a passion-driven person that also has a full-time job. Because up here, remember, as the high effort, this is going to be things that can easily burn Katrina or someone out that actually wants to add value, but they've got other things on their plate. And so for the items where you may have to start thinking about staff, things like that you may want to look at trying to eventually hire some people. So this is how you can begin to, kind of stratify and determine where things land, as it pertains to what you're doing. And if we put like a color code on this, if you think about it like a traffic light, red means stop, yellow means, caution, green means go, right? So if it's high effort, low passion, we might want to look at that as a red. This is like, if you can knock this out quickly with a little bit of headache, it's something you probably can do, but again, it's going to be high effort. You know what I mean? So that's something to really consider. Low effort, low passion, you can look at that as more or less like a yellow over here, where you can kind of proceed with caution. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of effort, but it's not also a lot of passion. So this may be something that Katrina may get tired of doing. It's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I really don't want to do it. And probably up here, you want to think about this as, let's put this as yellow as well, because you're going to need staff for this. So think about that for staff.
So,
and then go ahead.
So what I'm hearing you say is, because Katrina does have a full-time job, then let her kind of float in that low effort, high passion bucket, right?
Yes.
and more of because when I'm thinking low effort, low passion, my mind automatically goes to administrative tasks. It might not be something that takes a lot of effort, getting things set on the calendar, setting up something that does some kind of automation for the business, or those little things, that nuances that come in, making sure that this registration is done, or making sure that bill got paid, or those type of things.
Sure.
Are going to fall into that bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keith seems like he's going to play more in that high effort, high passion, low effort, low passion bucket.
Yeah. Exactly. So let me kind of pause. I want to at least kind of draw it out. This is something that just kind of came off the cuff, because in most industries, when you look at a heat map like this, you're going to see things like level of effort and then level of time, right? Or level of time, level of impact, right? So the impact can be, you can always replace the word passion with impact, but that's more so for your clients. So then you start to look at things like high level of effort, low impact to my client. So therefore, this is still a red, right? Do I really want to give them something that's going to take me forever? It's not really going to have an impact. So these are the kind of things you begin to think about, as an entrepreneur or as a couple in this space. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now, because I'm hoping, but does this make sense to you too?
Yeah, I love that visual. I love that a lot. I think I've taken from you guys, I think I want to do a vision board that we have in the house with our plan, and have something like that on it, just as a visual reminder of, okay, what are we doing, and what's really hurting the business that we don't need to do, that's taking too much time. Yeah. I really like that a lot. I mean, we've had a discussion about some of the clients right now that we've taken on, and some of the work I'm doing, where it's just like, it's kind of menial, but it takes time, and it's just may not be worth the value.
Exactly. And I think once you all start placing those goals, and it's really for anyone else that tunes in or listens afterwards, once you take the time to begin to put your goals and your different ideas onto a heat map like that, so now you begin to understand, to your point, what are some of the things that's really like high effort, low passion, I really don't like doing these things. Can I potentially outsource that eventually? Or do I just need to can it? Is it something I don't need to even worry about doing? The things that are high effort, high passion, those things are going to take more time. So do I have to look at hiring staff to replace me, or have me in some of those lanes? So now I can kind of duplicate myself. The things that are low effort in that lower right quad, so the low effort, high passion, those are the things that, you're going to want to get those, like, pile that up. That's things you're going to want to do. So that means when you come home from work, you are excited to do those things, because it's like, it's not going to burn me out, but I really like doing this. What I mean? And then eventually what happens is, as you change that mindset and you begin to think more about the things that are passion driven, then the money starts to come more, because when you come into a room, people will recognize that. They'll say, "Guys, she's clearly passionate. She's definitely passionate about that subject area. So let me put my pen down and let me listen to her. Let me really hear what she's saying." And the same for Keith as well.
I think another aspect to this is to understand that this is a living document. This is a living diagram. It's going to keep changing, and it's also going to help to streamline your services down the line, as well as you start to scale the business, because there are going to be things that you're okay with doing now that eventually you're going to be like, you know what, I really don't think we want to offer this anymore. And so then your service offerings change a little bit as you begin to, scale.
And that's okay.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that goes with experience too. So like, there's some things I'm taking on just to get more experience, but they don't have as much value monetarily, that as we grow, that we'll realize, like what you're saying, we'll realize, those things we don't really need anymore. And it kind of becomes a drain instead of something that's adding to the value of our business. And it's like you said, it's just a living thing. Like, we're constantly growing as a company and as people independently. So we have to keep reassessing. And sometimes it's hard in the midst of working 7 days a week to realize that it's time to reassess. Yeah. And that's important to reassess. We need to take the time to do that.
Yeah.
Like we assess it every month or something.
I would say as often as quarterly, doing a quarterly assessment of your business, and as you're continuing to grow helps as well. We do it at the end of each quarter. We look at, okay, what do we get accomplished in this quarter? And what are some things that we can tweak? And what are some things that we know, okay, that did not work. Let's not go down that path again. That just did not work. And so we're constantly reassessing. At least 4 times a year, we're reassessing our business to make sure that we're in par with what we said our goals were for the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have homework. You guys have given us homework.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Thank you. It's homework we need. So.
Yeah, and this is truly nothing but us just kind of eating our own dog food. These are things that
we've had to learn over time.
Yeah, and still use the same exact tools.
Yeah.
And so maybe next week we'll start talking about, as small business owners and entrepreneurship, thinking around things about good, fast, and cheap. How you can never have all three. You can never have all 3 of those things. Good, fast, and cheap.
I call it the triangle, but I know that's not what it's supposed to be called. And every time I reference it, I'm like, the triangle, Oscar, the triangle. He's like, that's not. But no. But that in my opinion, that is the other triangle, right? Good, fast, and cheap. You start thinking about, you can have something good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. Fast and good, but it ain't going to be, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like, so all those different things, you can never have all 3. And so when you're doing your pricing as a small business, owner and couples, there are some quick ways to think about what type of pricing threshold you guys are going to need, for this on that. Yeah.
We need that topic because we differ widely on what we think pricing should be. And I think it's because he's been in the business for a long time. So he is teaching me, like, value yourself, value your work. And I'm like, yeah, but shouldn't we offer this price incentive? And he's like, no, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's a great topic for next week.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So let's make sure we do that.
Yeah.
So we're right at about just a little bit over an hour now. I think today has been good. Like these times go by so fast.
They do.
I know.
They really go by fast, man. But I'm super excited as always to be in the presence of you two, and I think it's definitely a fun thing that we have going on here. And I'm hoping, based upon some of the feedback that we've gotten last week and this week, that there is some value that some folks are finding with these, and we'll continue to do it as long as it makes sense, as long as everyone is tuned in and they feel like this is some valuable information and stuff. So remember last week I didn't have anything cool to say.
If you're watching and you know someone, or as an individual or in a couple situation, and they're thinking about going into entrepreneurship, and you just want to share this information with them, please do. It's free. It's here. We're here to help. We've gone through a lot of ups and downs, and we're just giving out the information so people can, hopefully miss some of these downs that we've had and have more ups, I guess you could say. So it's raw, it's uncut. And we're just here offering good advice. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we appreciate it, and we're so glad we're benefiting from it, and that you guys decided to take us on and mentor us.
And it was funny because there was a high that came after last week where Katrina and I sat down, and it was that great reminder of how right of the decisions we have made together to do this together because of the level of love, first of all, that we have with each other and for each other. And I really have to thank you for that. It was like that. And during the past 6 months of being in this godforsaken pandemic, you kind of just get beat down after a while, and you need that little slap in the face, the reminder, the cold shower that will say to you, hey, remember what you're doing here and why you're doing it. And having that with you guys last week was it was reinvigorating. It really was. It was, I looked at her differently than I had in months prior. And it was, I can't put into words, which is funny because I don't shut up, how much that meant to the two of us. So thank you two.
It goes both ways. Yeah, it goes both ways because, just being that y'all are kind of at the beginning of your journey, hearing some of the questions and then some of the ideas that you have kind of reinvigorate us as well and remind us why we set out on this journey as well. So it's bringing it full circle, and it's also reminding us of things that we might have forgot. And we're like, we need to go back and reapply that and do that again this week so that we can see where we're going, because we might have lost track of that. You know?
I agree. So, and there's definitely a lot of other people out there that clearly are seeing value in it. So on the Facebook page, I think between last week Sunday and today, we're right at it was either right at 10,000 views.
Oh wow!
About 9,000 and some change views.
I didn't.
And then, I didn't either until I looked at it this morning.
Wow.
Okay, maybe people are watching. And then on our personal page, I think like my personal one may have gotten like 400 or something views and stuff. So it's certainly some good things behind it. What we like to probably do is just continue it to see how it grows, man. So again, thank you both for indulging us, for this hour and 6 minutes that we've been live on this, and everyone else that is tuned in, whether you're watching now or whether you're going to be watching after it posts. Thank you as well. Your ideas and different things that you have coming in, it's not going unnoticed. Please continue to bring to us different topics and ideas you want us to cover. We can go as granular or as high level as you like. So we're all about being transparent here, man. So thank you, and let's see if we can get this outro video to work this time. We're going to see. This is going to be interesting. Second.